Hey guys!
Hi! Welcome back!
Welcome to another episode of SISATIONal. I'm Jack.
And I'm Leah.
And we are sisters, and we almost said we are sisters who want to be your friends.
Oh my, I
which
mean,
is kind of true.
That is kind of true.
Yeah.
It's not a lie.
So today's episode is pretty cool because it is...
Just let you say it.
I think today's episode is pretty cool. What do you think?
Yeah. I feel like I'm going to choke on my own spit.
Love that.
I know. So hot.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Today's... Stop interrupting it. Today's episode is about our favorite podcasts.
Yes.
And while we're listening to them, we're each going to share 5 of our favorites.
Yes.
So, yeah.
You go first.
Okay.
Yeah. You got me into podcasts, so I feel like you need to be talking about
I need to initiate it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a weird word, but okay.
It's weird?
Initiate?
Yeah, like start.
Like, you only hear that. You know what I'm saying?
Like a romantic on it?
You know what I'm saying? Like, let's initiate this conversation about podcasts. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just,
Hey.
It's no podcast like that.
Take a seat, and we're going to initiate
Yeah, no.
a conversation about podcasts.
Yep.
So I'm kind of going in order from like...
Favorites?
Yeah, not starting with my most favorite, but starting with, I don't want to say least favorite, but kind of.
Kind of. Okay.
Okay. Now, the first one I'm going to mention, I just discovered. Like, I only discovered it a couple weeks ago.
So that's why it's your least favorite?
Yeah, I haven't given enough time,
Right.
for sure. It's called I Want to Know by Josh Spector. And
Ooh.
basically, it is a podcast for creative entrepreneurs.
Wow.
Yes, it tackles marketing. It tackles business strategy, like
Ooh.
legit stuff. And I think I've only listened to like 1, maybe 2 episodes, but
Yeah.
the meat and potatoes I was getting from it surprised me.
You know it's going to be good.
Yeah, like they're not wasting your time.
Nice.
So if any of you are creative entrepreneurs or you could see yourself benefiting from information like that, you should check it out. He also has a newsletter. I think it's called like For the Interested or whatever. And it's very minimal, but right now I'm getting more information from the podcast.
Okay.
So I'd check in on that.
I like his titles. Like, I want to know for the interested. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, no,
I like his marketing.
I agree. So that's first one I recommend for those who might enjoy. The second one is Daily Stoic with Ryan Holiday. Now, I don't like to identify as one thing when it comes to like ideologies and philosophies or stuff like that. I try to take things that I love from different things that I learn about.
Yeah.
So that can apply to religion, that can apply to different philosophy, that can apply to, other subjects or other aspirations, other crafts, other careers, right? Like if there's nuggets I can take from that and apply it to my own life, I will do that. And one of the philosophies and ways of living is Stoicism, which I guess is established a lot in like long a time ago.
Yeah.
Greek, sort of the Greek, I'm not sure how many thousands of years ago, guys. A long time ago, okay? And a lot of it is about focusing on what you can control and trying to let other things go that you can't, and really focusing, like trying to reprioritize your mind that way.
Yeah.
But also focusing more on the present and the fact that you only have one life to live. So live it well. You know what I mean?
Right. No pressure.
No pressure, but pressure for sure. In the
Yeah.
sense of like, sometimes we just think we have all the time in the world. And some of the point of Stoicism is to just remind us that we don't have all the time in the world, even if we feel that way. Because I have my own issue with like death anxiety and stuff, sometimes people will carry these coins around that say like memento mori. Memento mori means remember you must die.
Wow. Really?
And it's also a noun, which means an object serving as a warning or reminder of death, such as a skull.
Yeah, I don't need that.
I don't need that level of reminder because of where I am, but I don't want to become complacent.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel that.
I mean, some people can handle that.
Yeah.
Like my husband, I got him interested in Daily Stoic, and then he further did his own research and stuff and really started getting into Stoicism. And he has a coin, a memento mori coin that he keeps with him, and it has a skull and a rose. It's a beautiful coin, but I just don't need that reminder. He also goes so far as to have like one of those, it's like a bar, a progress bar of your life.
Oh.
So I have it for like how far the day is and the week and the month and the quarter and the year. He has it for like an average lifetime.
Oh my God.
Yes.
No. Oh, I'm literally putting my hand on my heart. I am so, oh my God.
I can't do that.
No. What?
I've seen a similar thing.
The average amount of time you have of your life? Just put it in your pocket?
I have literally had ads. I wonder if anybody else has. Like, please let me know if you have, because
You're the only one.
No.
I'm nervous.
There are these like, it's almost like a wall calendar, but you basically fill in the dot for every week of life that you've lived.
Shut up.
And it has, again, the average lifespan.
Oh my God.
So you can
can't.
literally see like a block of life, like for like 20 years.
No.
It's weird.
That's so weird.
I understand the concept.
Yeah.
My anxiety can't handle that. Like waking up and looking at that every day.
Oh my God. No.
Fuck no. Like I can't. And with how I'm talking, it makes it seem like I'm dissing Stoicism. I'm not. What I'm trying to say is that this podcast is especially great for people who don't want to have reminders like that around them.
Yeah, because we don't like that. Me and Jack don't.
This podcast talks more about the philosophies
Right.
and the ideas behind Stoicism. And I would say veers more on the side of you being accountable for your thoughts, in the sense of you really don't have to worry about that if it's not going to help you, if it's not going to change anything. Because if you can't control it, you can't control it. It really is as simple as that. I'm not saying it's as easy as that.
Right.
But it is a reminder for someone like me who does worry about things that I can't change it overnight, or I can't control it at all.
Uh-huh.
And it keeps me in check a bit. For people who struggle with anxiety or struggle with reminded to be in the present moment, I would encourage you to look into Stoicism, and specifically the podcast that I'm talking about is Daily Stoic with Ryan Holiday. He has this podcast. He also has a book that I have called, I think it's like 365 Stoic Meditations or something like that. It's basically a whole year's worth of 1 page a day for Stoicism.
Nice.
So it's pretty cool.
That whole thing with the block of time and like marking, penciling, that reminds me of something that at college a guest speaker did. Like we had chapel, and so there was guest speakers, and this guest speaker filled jars with like jelly beans and like showed you how much time you've spent cleaning at this age, and how much time like by 60 you've spent cleaning, how much time you spent with family, or like estimated like stuff,
hours delegated.
And it was just weird seeing it all fit in a jar, you know, like it was really, I hate that. It was really so it was reminding me of that.
That's weird. Yeah. No, it's a very similar thing, and I understand that the concept is to make you mindful, right?
Right.
But with that said, you also have to be mindful in ways that don't further
your anxiety.
Yeah, further exacerbate anxiety or dread or whatever, overwhelm, right?
Right.
So, Daily Stoic for those who want reminders without it always being we're all gonna die kind of feeling.
Yeah, that's so that podcast isn't we're all gonna die all the time. It's like,
I would say he does bring that up, but it's not just that.
Okay.
And if you're keeping a coin in your pocket where that's the only thing that it's saying, I find that to be only a part
of the whole message.
Exactly.
I'm tracking with you. Yeah. That's cool.
So after the serious stuff, I have some comedy, okay?
Thanks.
Honestly, I really started getting into comedy in college.
Yes. I mean, because you need something to lighten the load.
Yeah, I mean, comedy podcasts. I want to say Armchair Expert and this other podcast called Self-Helpless are like two of the very first podcasts I ever listened to, and I listened to them a shit ton. But Self-Helpless was more comedy.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I found it because a comedian that I absolutely fell in love with and still love.
Oh, we still love her.
Taylor Tomlinson.
Taylor, we love you. If you're listening to this, we love you, honey. You're amazing. You probably won't listen to this, but
she's done different podcasts. She started this one with her and two other co-hosts, to other friends of hers.
Yes.
I listened to that a whole bunch in college, but once she left the podcast, I stopped listening because I was there for her.
Yeah.
And when she left, she's gone. So I kind of miss that dynamic. But a podcast I came across within the last year that is similar, if not better than that vibe, is called Trash Tuesday.
So funny.
With Annie Lederman, Esther Povitsky, and Kalyla Kuhn.
It's so much.
And oh my God, if you want some trashy, but also relatably funny, but also some self-help stuff in there, you got it all, man. It is funny as fuck.
It really is. It's so much. It's it's one of a kind. It really is. It's its own thing.
It's its own thing, and I love it. It can make a shitty day seem a little bit better. 100%. Like, I love that podcast. So definitely check that out. They got video versions and audio versions, and sometimes the video versions are funnier to watch because they do record them when they're doing some crazy shit in the studio. You get to see it.
You get to see it.
So shout out to Trash Tuesday. It is so funny. Truly. I actually need to catch up on some episodes. So
Yeah. We should do that after we're done recording our podcast.
We should. The other comedy podcast I wanted to recommend was comedy, and it is conversational, but it's Good For You by Whitney Cummings. She's another comedian, and I like these because they are kind of similar to Armchair Expert, but they're also a little bit more leaning into, say, Trash Tuesday territory. It's kind of both. I would say I'm a little bit more selective with the episodes I listen to for her. Like, I will listen for specific guests because I want to hear that dynamic between her and them. So that one I'm a little more selective, but I do love it. Like, you will hear some really cool stories or perspectives on stuff. So that's Good For You by Whitney Cummings, and her stuff is pretty funny too. I've already mentioned it a couple times, but the next one up is Armchair Expert.
Yes.
One of my first loves.
Did that podcast come out when you first started listening to it? Like, was it new then, back in college for you? Like,
I'm going to look it up.
Because I'm kind of curious to know if you were one of their first listeners. I wouldn't be surprised.
It started in 2018.
So you were one of their first listeners?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it says it started in February 6, 2018. I started listening to it, I want to say 2018. So yeah, Armchair Expert, one of my first loves in terms of podcasts. I think one of the reasons why Armchair Expert is so cool is, yes, there are conversations with celebrities, but that's not the only types of conversations. If you want to listen to certain experts in their field, that's a possibility with this podcast. But I also got to hand it to the host, Dax Shepard and Monica Padman.
Yeah.
Because they will have conversations on the podcast where they aren't exactly on agreeing terms. Like, they will debate some things with each other, especially on their earlier episodes. They would do what they call a fact check, but it wasn't just a fact check. It was also them talking to each other and kind of seeing what came up. So what I love about it is not only did they have their own little debates, little discussions where you kind of get to hear people calmly discussing different ideas about a topic, right? Like, I'm not saying they're just echo chambering. Like, there are certain times where they don't. And I got to hear people kind of calmly discuss their opinions on something they both disagreed about.
Oh, how cool.
But also, Dax Shepard, the way he has talked about some more controversial things has been less damning in his assumptions of people's character than other people I've heard, or other news anchors or other writers, whatever you want to put in that category. There was actually this one great episode with Brene Brown, for example. This was a live episode, one of their first ones, I think. And they're talking about Trump voters, right?
Oh. Ooh.
Now, it was surprising to me, but the vibe I got from Brene was that she was hitting them a little harder with, like, stereotypical assumptions about the whole, right? And Dax had made the point that he's like, well, given certain circumstances, given certain beliefs, I can see why someone would be that. And it doesn't have to be like the extreme evil of that character.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I was blown away because as someone who has changed their political beliefs and their values over time, I want to know that other people won't alienate and exclude me just because I come from a certain place, or I might have a different opinion and I'm looking for room to share it and to learn more.
Right.
Someone like that, someone who's going to be more open-minded and less judgmental. And I'm not talking about just, look at your outfit. I'm talking about, like, they hear I voted for Trump, or they hear I voted for Hillary, right? And the conversation is totally different.
Wow.
Something changes because they assume that your character is going to match either stereotype of that political party or whatever the fuck.
Light
right?
side, dark side.
Right,
Yeah.
to whoever. And it doesn't even matter the side. Like, people think that way. And I don't like that.
Yep.
And so to hear somebody who doesn't agree with Trump politics, don't get me wrong, but he's not demonizing everybody who thinks that way, because that's not how it works.
Right.
That's not who people are. People are individuals. And to me, that was one of the most powerful things I had heard, because I haven't heard other people talk like that in public.
Right.
You know, maybe between each other, where no one else is going to listen in on their empathy for someone of the opposing side.
Yeah,
whatever
like,
it is.
or to somebody like on the opposing side, like being level-headed still, talking instead of like coming with, I don't know, blazing fire. And
yes. Yeah.
It's really cool.
That really intrigued me. Okay. So Armchair Expert.
Armchair Expert.
You're going to get some really good conversations with that one.
Wow. Yeah.
I really got to hand it to him. He's been really vulnerable. Like, he relapsed while making the podcast, and he was open about that.
Oh my God.
And like, he had a podcast episode, I think it was called either Day One or Day something, and it was how many days since he had come clean and had started to be sober again. And it was, I mean, very active and present in his life that he's sharing this. It's extremely vulnerable stuff. And celebrities are already fighting enough to try to keep a lot of their stuff to themselves. But addiction's a real disease. And here is somebody who fucked up, right? And has taken some of his identity as helping other addicts or trying to lead the way for, again, kind of redeeming, being seen differently, right?
Yeah.
And here he is owning his fuck up.
Right.
And how vulnerable is that?
Wow.
Yeah. And we're talking a lot of listeners. Like, I'm not... His podcast is already, like, quite popular. So I don't want to put any physical person on a pedestal, but what I'm trying to say is there are some things I think that podcast has done that have broken some boundaries in a very authentic way. Some of those things I aspire to do with this podcast too.
Yeah.
So that's Armchair Expert.
Go Dax. That's amazing. That's really, I'm not sure if I could do that. Like, that's really, wow.
Back to some lightheartedness. Another one that's similar, but I would say just more lighthearted overall, is Smartless.
I love that name, Smartless, instead of Brainless.
So those are with hosts Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett. And their chemistry and dynamic, like their sassiness and stuff, is hilarious.
Isn't Jason Bateman an actor?
Yeah.
Isn't
They're
he
all
Zootopia?
Actors. Yes,
Fox?
he's the voice of the Fox. He's also in Ozark.
Oh my God.
He got his start in comedy as well. He got his start in that Little House on the Prairie episode as one of the kids, the adopted ones later on in the seasons. The kid with like the really big bowl cut thing.
Oh my God,
that was him. So Jason Bateman's been around a long time.
Wow.
He's funny. Like, I dig his dry humor.
Yeah.
He did the show called Arrested Development, and I have tried to get into it. I kind of can't, but I like a lot of those stuff he's done. I love this podcast. Sean Hayes and Will Arnett are all funny with him. So that's funny. If you just want something that's going to be a good listen, they have some really cool celebrity guests. Listen to that. That's great. And then last but not least for me is a podcast that I started listening to this year.
Okay.
It's my favorite right now. And it's called Morbid, a true crime podcast with Ash and Alaina.
Wow.
And oh my God, I'm a big true crime junkie. They take different cases and they research the fuck out of them. Like, they really have a lot of research that they present to the audiences. So that's awesome. But their personalities, in fact, their friendship reminds me a little bit of our own.
Really?
And I just find comfort listening to them. They are technically a niece and an aunt, but they grew up as sisters. And their chemistry, their closeness is just 10 out of 10.
Oh my God.
The thing about true crime is you're kind of thinking, like, how can you make anything like that lighthearted? They just do. Like, there's moments where they are able to show so much respect for the victims and their victims' families of these cases, but they're able to have enough banter between themselves that it can kind of take you out of some of the heaviness in a way that you could listen to it for a long time.
That's important. That's a skill.
I would say so. So if you like true crime, if you like a conversational, laid-back style podcast, please check out Morbid. I can't say enough good about them. Like, I love them. I feel like I know them.
Oh my God.
If you guys are listening, you guys are the fucking bomb. So that's it was over 5, but I think those are my top.
5.
Yeah. I think it was technically over 5, but those are my favorite podcasts
So
right now.
Morbid being your favorite.
Morbid being my favorite because that is the one I'm going to the most.
Okay, for comfort.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's so cool. Pulling up my list of my favorite podcasts at the moment. Oh my gosh. So Mel Robbins, she's the author of The High Five Habit. Is that the name of the book?
Yes, and The 5-Second Rule, which was the first book.
That was the first. I didn't realize she made a book on that.
That was her first book.
Really?
100%.
Wow. Well, she has a podcast, and it's called The Mel Robbins Podcast, but it's so good. She strikes such a great balance of inspiring you, of being empathetic, and also helping you get off your butt and do work.
Yes.
Like, she really strikes this balance. I think partially because she really struggled at a time of her life, which is why she's successful now, is because she researched and discovered ways, some by luck, but to discover ways to make her life better and to feel better about herself. And it's awesome. She's really down to earth and real. And her podcast just launched. She's only had a couple episodes and it's already bomb. It's great.
It's got
so
5-star reviews on Spotify.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's so good. That's my favorite inspiration podcast right now. And probably my favorite inspiring podcast because it just resonates with me deeply.
I would also like to add that Mel Robbins is also kind of a source of inspiration for our outro at the end of our episodes.
Yes.
She makes it a point at the end of every newsletter she sends, and I believe even in the podcast she's doing now.
She does.
Where she makes it a point to say, in case no one else has told you, let me be the one to tell you that I love you and
I believe in you and your ability to make a better life.
Yeah, something like that.
It's really cool.
But she's basically ending her show and her email newsletter every time with an encouragement directly to the listener or reader.
Yeah.
And it just kind of gives the impression that this is somebody who really is trying to care for.
Yes, intentional.
Intentionally, yes. Shout out to her and what she's doing because I think that's really amazing.
Thank you, Mel. You're awesome. She's so good. But close to that is, and I've listened to this one longer, but it's called A Good Life Project. Yeah. Or Good Life Project?
Yeah.
Is it A Good Life or Good Life?
Well,
let me make sure. I want to make sure I'm not doing Jonathan Fields wrong. He's the host. Yeah, I think it's just Good Life Project.
Cool.
So yeah. My second favorite podcast that I listened to for longer is called Good Life Project by Jonathan Fields. And he'll bring in so many experts in their fields, interviewing them. He's just inspiring. He's inspiring on his own. He's an author and really smart. He's a really smart person, really productivity guru you. Just knows how to get stuff done, knows how to plan out a year and get you inspired and get you motivated.
Can you share a little bit about that episode that you told me?
Oh my gosh.
You don't have to remember it all, but
my favorite nugget from that. So Jonathan Fields, the host of Good Life Project, he normally does do guests, but in the beginning of the year, every year, he does the same podcast that he workshops and tweaks a bit every year on just getting started into something that you love, just jumpstarting a career, really, but to know how to stick with it. My personal favorite takeaway from it is he talks on, you've heard the concept that to get something done, you have to believe in yourself to a certain extent to make it happen. You have to believe you're good at this or that you can do this. And something that you and I have found personally, that it's just when your self-esteem is rock bottom, it's really hard to believe that you can, especially if you haven't done it before, if you don't see the numbers, if you don't see the results, it's just hard to believe that.
Very.
And he's like, all you have to do, you don't have to believe in yourself 100%, which is what you kind of think when I have to believe in myself to do this thing. No, he's like, you just have to believe in yourself 3%, just 3% believe that you can do something. And it's just,
that's enough.
It's enough. It really is enough. That was really mind-opening to me. I love that. There's so many good nuggets. Oh my God, with the new year.
Yes.
It's the perfect time to listen to that. I need to see if he has his new one out because
I think he releases it the first week of January.
Okay. Yeah. It's right.
Yeah, but it's about also getting any goal, really,
Yeah.
that you are intending to do that you don't want to get derailed from.
Right. Yes. Perfect way to put it.
That is the podcast episode. If you're serious about any goal or way of living or accomplishing this year, listen to that podcast. I'm going to link it in the show notes. Because I can't recommend that one enough.
He helps you keep your expectations realistic because he automatically asks you to think about your life and your life flow. Like if you want to run a 5K, but like the way your life is and how much time you can actually realistically devote to something, like make your goals realistic based on your values and how things are going on and what priorities you want to shift. It's awesome. He's awesome. So shout out to Good Life Project. I also really like Optimal Living Daily. You got me into that whole umbrella. There's so many. There's like how many?
There's a bunch. They have Optimal Living Daily is like the umbrella, but they have like optimal relationships, optimal health, optimal startup.
I need to listen to that.
Optimal living. There could be more. Optimal finance.
Wow.
Yes. Those are like the ones, man.
And they are short, and that's what I love about them. They are like 10 minutes, really. I love feeling inspired, and they just like inspire you. It's like 10 minutes. You feel ready to, I don't know, take on the day or to adopt a different mindset.
It's 10-minute blog posts that they record for you. They get permission from the authors.
Yeah.
And then they read them to you, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's every day, even weekends, you get a new one.
And holidays, I think.
And holidays. Every day you get a new one for finance, for health, for relationships, for optimal living. That's what I'm saying. It's
so good. It's literally 10 minutes of just goodness. It's awesome. Another podcast that I seriously love, it came out last year, is We Can Do Hard Things by Glennon Doyle. And it's like her spouse and her sister. I think she married like, I don't want to botch her name, Abby Wambach.
Oh, yeah.
Who's like Olympian, and their dynamic is really great. They interview really good people. It's very female targeted, like inspiring and empowering females, and just like in the industry and career and being a mom. They talk about all different kinds of issues, like body issues, and just
that's awesome.
It's awesome. Identity and a bit of religious trauma. They talk on it. Abby specifically, like I think she was raised Catholic.
Oh shit.
And, you know, she and Glennon obviously like so like that was a whole thing.
Damn.
It was really cool. Yeah. So
that's cool.
Yeah, they're really vulnerable on there. It's good.
Wow.
Yeah. So I recommend that We Can Do Hard Things by Glennon Doyle. My last one, it's not exactly a podcast, but I've supported now he has a podcast now.
Oh yeah.
To help people fall asleep. Like he'll read audiobooks and stuff.
That's cool.
But he's a streamer. He doesn't show his face, so the vibe is very similar to a podcast. But he streams on Twitch and on YouTube. And his username is Mad Morph, MADMORPH. And he's just chill. I listened to like all of his Animal Crossing stuff on Twitch, and it was just extremely relaxing, kind of like white noise. It was just my comfort thing, kind of like how Morbid is for you.
He was kind of your 4 a.m. friend for a period of time in South Carolina.
Yeah, he was.
Because there was a time when you were doing some long distance.
Yeah.
Again. And you would tell me all about this thing you're listening to help kind of relax a bit more before going to bed, because it's always been harder to go to sleep without your comfort person.
Where I lived, it was just, it was pretty sketch. I lived in a rough trailer, and it wasn't that we made it rough. It came rough. It was a 1970s trailer, and when we got it from the landlord, he was basically like, he needs to burn it down eventually because it's so old. And he smoked in it. My landlord did, like, years ago. Like, right. It was a mess. We didn't keep it a mess. It was just bad conditions.
And the area was kind of unsafe.
The area was a bit sketch. Yeah, it wasn't the prettiest part of town. And college is tough. And I would listen to his podcast because I'd be in a scary little trailer all by myself.
All by myself.
Yeah. Great comfort. My favorite comfort stream, whatever. He streams a bunch of stuff, horror games and indie games. Most of the time it's indie games. But my personal favorite stuff from him was his Animal Crossing stuff.
Does he have an accent too?
Yeah, he's British. So
nice.
It's soothing. For sure. And
for us Americans.
Yeah, for us Americans. And it was funny because he was also like, as he was gaining some popularity from doing the Animal Crossing stuff, people were like, "Oh my God, I love your voice. I listen to your podcast. I say podcast. I listen to your streams while I go to sleep." And he was like, "Oh," and like he was like, "I've had enough feedback on my voice where I feel like I need to do something about it." So he started the podcast just solely from
the feedback.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, his podcast is called Down to Sleep. And he reads books. It's nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's dope. Mad Morph. I don't know his actual name, but that's what I got. And oh my God, I want to listen to Morbid.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious about their dynamic.
Yeah. No, it's kind of amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to jump on it.
Yeah. Please let us know what your favorite podcasts are.
Yeah, if you listen to them and let us know, like, what was your favorite?
Yeah, and also if you have other ones that you like that you want to share with us.
Yes.
I'm always listening to new ones, man.
Yes, we're like sponges for knowledge. We want to know more.
Yeah, so definitely email us, DM us with whatever podcast recommendations you have. And if you've listened to any of the ones that we listed, we want to hear what you think about them.
Yeah.
And I guess before we sign off,
we love you guys.
We are rooting for you.
And you matter.
Thank you.
Have a great week. Thanks.
Bye.